We are going to call the Committee for Reimagining Public Safety to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Neal, Homobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
All members are present except for Neal.
Thank you so much. At this time, can we please have a motion to approve the minutes from our previously held meeting? Would Councilwoman Mobian, thank you. Can we get a second by Councilman McKittrick?
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Homobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
Minutes pass.
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and get started. I first just want to begin by commending all of the working groups. I think so far we are going in the right direction. I mean, the amount of information, the questions that are being asked is great. And it's proving not only to be a learning opportunity for us as council members, but really for the general public as well. So I just want to thank the working chairs and the working groups for all the great work that you're doing. I want to thank the Akron police officers who have presented at many of these working sessions. The information has been invaluable. So thank you so much for that. So really on today, we have an exciting announcement as we continue the work of looking at public safety here in the city of Akron. And we formed another partnership, a partnership with the University of Akron to really help us in this process. And so we have hired 2 interns. We're really excited about that because, again, we want these working groups to be successful. And in order for it to be successful, we realized and understood that we could not do it alone. We have to be real about, what our assets and what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. And so I'm excited about this new partnership with the University of Akron to be able to come on and help us through this process, and where we might not be as strong. I do believe that this partnership is going to help fill some of those voids. And so what I want to do is, on the call, we actually have Dr. Erickson, who want to thank her, who is a professor at the University of Akron, who has helped to secure 2 of our interns. And those 2 interns happen to be 2 of her students. Dr. Erickson has been so kind and so gracious and willing to also give of her time and her talent to really help us through this process as well. So I want to take an opportunity just to turn it over to Dr. Erickson so that she can introduce herself and for her also to introduce our interns to council.
Thanks, President Somerville, and thanks and hi to all the council members. I'm Becky Erickson. I am in my 30th year at the University of Akron. I'm a professor of sociology. My area of focus is social psychology, and particularly my research focus has been on the health and well-being of those who work in the healthcare sector and human service work more generally. I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with council and do whatever I can to help make this process a success as you all are defining it. And so I think based on my conversations with President Somerville, what we're really here to do is to get information from you about what you need to have this process be as productive and useful to you and the public as possible. And so I'm going to probably be reaching out to all of you, as many as possible in the near future, to just hear from you what you need and how we might be able to help. So I'll introduce my student, Shelby Stevens Kennedy, who's here on the call. And the second student who I think might have had a work conflict, Trayvon Richardson, is also going to be joining us in this effort. But Shelby, do you want to unmute yourself and say hi and just say a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shelby Stevens, and I'm a senior at the University of Akron. I am majoring in sociology, criminology, and law enforcement, and I have a certificate in conflict management. So hopefully that will come in handy here. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
Thanks, Shelby. So I'm going to be just working with and overseeing what Shelby and Trayvon are going to be doing and answering any questions and supporting them in the way that I can moving forward, and then just providing whatever support I can provide to you. As chair of sociology, we also serve and are very interconnected with the interdisciplinary program in criminal justice. So I have been keeping those folks abreast of what's going on. And so hopefully this can be the start of a partnership that will move down the road. And I'm really looking forward to working out and helping out in whatever way I can. Thank you.
Margot, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Erickson. One other thing that I wanted to mention, and then we'll kind of open up the floor for comments and for questions. So not only will we have our interns, and Dr. Erickson has been so kind to meet with each working chair along with the two interns, really just to kind of see what the chairs might need in terms of the interns, whether that's research or, what topics or areas of research would you like the interns to work on. So just know that in the future, there will be some conversations with working chairs along with Dr. Erickson and our two interns. And so we're so grateful for that. The other component and piece that we are really going to need the help of our interns, and particularly the expertise of Dr. Erickson, is a community engagement component. What's really important about this work is that we also want to make sure that we are hearing from the residents of Akron. So as we are having all of these great conversations and hearing from all of these great experts and really trying to figure out, a formal plan to present to the public at the end of this process, we want to make sure that we're hearing from the residents, right? We want to make sure that we know what's important to the residents. We want to make sure that we're not missing something. And if we are, we want to be able to address that. And so Dr. Erickson has been so kind to help us create a community engagement survey. An idea, something that engagement component, that a survey that can be very thoughtful in capturing, the thoughts and concerns of the residents of Akron. And once we receive that information, our interns will help us process that information. We can filter, some of those concerns, questions, or areas that need to be addressed to the particular working groups. So again, an opportunity to make sure that we're hearing from residents and making sure that we're addressing some of their concerns as well as we go through this process. So at this time, what I really wanted to do was just kind of open it up to council members if you had any questions, particularly for maybe Dr. Erickson or for Shelby, who is our new intern.
Margaret, I don't know if you're looking at raised hands.
Yes, I am. But go ahead, Councilwoman Mobin. You're good.
Okay, good. Dr. Erickson, just curious. I know across this nation, everybody is struggling with how do we move forward with policing. And just curious, are you aware of other communities doing something like this? I know that we are trying to be collaborative with the police department. But I think you may have heard the chief or somebody, you may have read about his reaction initially. And I don't think he was overreacting as much as he was expressing the concerns of his as well as his rank. So his file, the rank and file of the police department. So I'm just curious, moving forward, I know my background is sounds like it's very similar to yours. I work in mental health, and I've been working in mental health for years. And we've been doing a lot of integrated, progressive kinds of things in Summit County with the diversionary courts and CIT and all of those things. And the police officers are working closely with us. I guess part of my concern is I want us to really view this as being progressive in our thinking and trying to reshape what we're doing in Akron to prevent anything from happening. But at the end of the day, I want them to really see this as us moving forward together as a community. So what have you been seeing in other communities, or have you worked with any colleagues in other communities?
I haven't worked with other colleagues in communities specifically about reimagining public safety, but I do have some experience working at the intersection of mental health and police departments. So with the help of what used to be called Margaret Clark Morgan Foundation, but PEGS Foundation. I worked with Frontline Mental Health Agency up in Cleveland. You may be familiar with them, and also the Cleveland
Yes.
Police Department
Yes.
to look at the benefits of their traumatic loss response team.
Okay.
And generated a lot of data by talking with a lot of folks at that intersection and generating a report related to that. I think that the way that this council is moving forward with that shared structure of having the police officers, the liaisons to the committees and providing their input right along with your concerns and the concerns that you're bringing from the community at large in your wards is absolutely the right way to go. One of the things that I've been doing since connecting with President Somerville and Shamus is to look at best practices that have been occurring from around the nation. And I think you've identified that Summit County in particular is actually known as a best practices hub for dealing with issues of mental health, the CIT training with the police officers, the mental health court, and so on. So I think that there's really a lot to build on here. And so I'm trying to match what is happening here and what the processes that you're going through, which is why having some conversations about what you're really envisioning and hoping for, we can align that with the help of Trayvon and Shelby with the best practices that other communities have engaged in. And because of my background as a researcher, I'm really looking at how data has been collected, what ways, what community forms of community engagement have occurred elsewhere, both in terms of sort of more open-ended sort of storytelling kinds of processes, as well as some communities that have used more standardized surveys to try to understand the breadth and depth of issues. So that's sort of my background, and I really think the way that this process is beginning is really exceptional and also in keeping with best practices from other communities in the time that I've been able to look into it.
Thank you so much. Councilman Malik, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Erickson and Shelby. Just Dr. Erickson, going off of your last point, can you talk a little bit about sort of what you were thinking in terms of putting together this community engagement forum? And I know we're gonna, have folks review it before we finalize it, but just wanted to hear some of your thoughts about how you structured it right now.
Sure. In doing this, I think that part of the issue really is the timeline that all of you have. So this is kind of a quick turnaround in terms of an initial report. My understanding is the goal is to have a report by December sometime. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So that in and of itself kind of puts some constraints on the community engagement process. But I just sort of see this as I would expect all of you as sort of the first step, and it's an iterative or emergent process that needs to move forward. All the problems aren't going to be solved in the next 8 weeks, but the goal is to try to get a good deep handle on them. So I think that when you see the form that gets sent out, I think we've aired at this point on really trying to get community members to share their stories and their concerns, kind of along the lines that you folks have done in the working group meetings of really wanting to hear, for example, the police officers' experiences in certain ways. There have been specific stories told, as well as talking about more general concerns that people have. So I think that my own orientation for this step is to try to distribute the form, the open-ended, getting open-ended responses from as many members of the community as possible. So I think one of the things that would really help at this point is how all of you think that data might be best collected, but needing to happen in a fairly quick turnaround manner, because then as Shelby and Trevon and I bring all this information together, it's going to take a little while, first of all, to transcribe, and then start to recognize the patterns and trends. And then what I'm really interested in, and I know Trevon, Shelby, and I have also been looking at your working meetings to sort of match and look at the areas of overlap from what has been coming out of your meetings, as well as what the community members are saying. And again, I'm really looking for best practices here. So there's a lot of information, a lot of things that are going on that are balancing the good news stories as well as the areas of challenge and the issues that are facing us, and how best to move ahead with those. So again, an initial step and looking for those patterns and areas of overlap where we've got a balance of what is going well and what is working in some areas. And when those can be identified, sometimes the issue is that those good experiences, those good best practices aren't always occurring. So what might be leading that to not happen more broadly than it should, for example, as well as just identifying the challenges that lay forward. But I sort of see this as a first step. And then with your feedback and your experience, then hopefully we can continue to move forward to see what the next step might be and what you guys need at that point.
Very good. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions at this time? Comment?
I didn't use mine.
Councilwoman Baylor?
Yes, I just wanted to say there are so many different areas that we seem to be looking at. I think one of the challenges is honing down so many different areas and getting a couple of areas and focusing on those few areas and really taking, a deeper dive into those couple of areas, rather than spreading things out so far to where we really won't have a good impact, or the impact that we're looking to have. So I think that probably some help in some of that. And I think the survey will help with that. And, it's really something we probably should have put forth early on. But I do appreciate you guys being available to help to do that right now. And I think it's a great, a great idea. I just think it came a little late, but then I came a little late with my thinking about it too. So, but my focus was on how is the community going to be engaged, or how do we engage the community as a whole in a relatively quick way. So you guys have come and you've answered that in the form of a survey and things like that. And so the sooner we get that out, I think it's going to help all of the committees, because then we'll have a something to go on that's been community driven. So just thank you. And I just wanted to say a few things about that, but yeah, we need to, be more precise and have just a couple of subjects that we really look at in the initial beginnings.
Thank you, Councilwoman Baylor. And again, we know that there is much that can be talked about, looked into, and researched. And so really, we kind of started by saying that, this was just the beginning. Although this phase is to end in December, we can continue, if council decides to do so, continuing to meet and looking at even more issues and doing deeper dives in other areas come 2021.
Okay. Good.
Councilman Swirsky?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the people from the University of Akron. We are fortunate to add your expertise to this project, which is an evolving project, as President Somerville just said. So really want to thank you and appreciate your participation. I think the challenge in soliciting information and opinions and experiences, the challenge is to really obtain the viewpoints from across the community. As Councilwoman Baylor mentioned, the community as a whole. And I was pleased to hear you say that, there may be areas that were strong. We want to hear about that. There may be areas of concern that need to be improved. We want to hear about those also. And we just want to make sure that this is as fair as possible and as unbiased possible sampling of the population. So it will take a lot of your professionalism along with our cooperation to try to do that in a way that's that obtains viewpoints and experiences of the community as a whole. And we may notice differences of opinion, different experiences, and that would be good for us to know that as well. But the voters of Akron just voted to increase funding for the police a few years ago through a levy. And so we can believe that there is a lot of support for police. There's even maybe some people who want to defund the police. We always hear about that, but there's also people who just voted to increase funding for the police. So we want to make sure that we hear all the viewpoints in this process and do as thorough and as inclusive of a data gathering as we can.
Thank you so much, Councilman Swirsky. That was a good point. I don't know if Dr. Erickson can kind of just speak to that, as we think about the community engagement piece and how we make sure that we capture, different voices throughout the city.
Sure. That's part of the reason why all of you are going to have an opportunity to see this form, which is truly in its draft mode and trying to be mindful of the time that it takes for people to share their comments. So we don't want to, in this day and age, burden people with things that are going to take too much time, but that they can get their main concerns conveyed. So we have opted for shorter and more straightforward, and really having people share what what their greatest concerns are, and then we can go back and potentially do, as people have said, a deeper dive on that. I think one of the key processes that, again, all of you can really help us with, given the short timeline, is your recommendations for where these forms. I mean, President Somerville has talked with me about where they should be distributed, the combination of having physical forms available at places such as the local libraries now that they have opened back up, as well as other locations, community centers, etc., as well as having online forms, making sure that the public knows about this through press coverage, for example, and then other ideas that you may have. In my own work, there would be a longer time period. I think we do know that there are neighborhood communities that all need to be able to have access to this form. There are, again, other ways that we might have gathered these data in terms of focus groups or town halls or those sorts of things, which we may want to do and may see the need for moving forward. But again, with COVID making that more difficult, I think just trying to get the form out in as accessible and in as many neighborhoods as possible, and also being able to convey through the way in which the form is distributed and there's information provided, that it reflects that notion of really wanting all constituencies within Akron to share their experiences, and the importance of having all of those experiences represented, as Councilman Swirsky was just saying, trying to get information from the whole community. So I think that the way in which the information about the outreach and community engagement we're doing is going to be a critical piece of that, as well as thinking about the combination of physical forms and online forms.
Thank you so much, Dr. Erickson. I do see Councilwoman Mobian has her hand up. Councilwoman Mobian, did you have your hand up?
I'm sorry, I thought I was talking. Dr. Erickson and the rest of the group. I think what I'm hearing, and maybe this is something else to think about, that perhaps what we will do is, what we're doing is could be considered like the first phase of this process. Because as you talked about all of these different groups, and there are lots of groups in Akron that we can tap into, but we probably shouldn't hold up the initial report or review of what the committees are doing, because that could be focus groups of all kinds and different ones that many of us probably could identify to get more feedback, because certainly in various communities, we are all experiencing different kinds of things with regard to policing and thinking about it. So I'm just wondering if that's one way President Somerville may want to think about it, that maybe the first part would be for us to do this report and let people know this is not the end game. It's just basically trying to get some thoughts on paper and then begin to roll out to add to whatever we learn, because there are lots of views about what's going on. And I think we're in a mode where we want to prevent anything more serious like what we've seen in other communities from happening in Akron. And so I think there is a lot of work to be done, as you indicated, but I think we could probably still come up with something like in November or December, and then start thinking about what do we do 2021 moving forward. So thank you. Those are just my thoughts.
That's perfect. And I think Councilwoman Amobian, you've said exactly that. You know, there's much work to be done in this space. And so I think this is just a start. And so hopefully at the end of the process, council will decide that, you know, you want to continue, you know, in this work. And so again, we will have that discussion at the end. I want to make sure that there's no other comments or questions before we conclude. And if not, again, I want to thank Shelby. I want to thank Dr. Erickson so much.
Excuse me, Councilman Fusco has his hand up.
Councilman Fusco, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you.
That's okay. I know these are some restricted. I was looking for the little hand guy. Or
I couldn't find it either.
But anyways, I again, want to welcome Dr. Erickson and her team and appreciate all the comments from everyone. And I think it's important to figure out a plan too, and agree with President Somerville and Councilwoman Mobian. We've got to seek an end game to this, no doubt, but I believe beyond that, continuous improvement. We can't just stop and say, well, we're December 4th, we're going to have a report, and then we're going to work on a few things, and that's the end game. I don't believe that should be the end game. I believe, and I know there's some sectors or some folks out there who, you know, continuous improvement may not be on their agenda or what have you, but I personally believe, not only City Council, but the police department and all departments throughout the city, we've got to continuously look for improvement, continuously look and see what's going on out there. And I think perhaps that needs to be part of the discussion too. How would this momentum live on even after we're done with this? And I think that's what we're all looking forward. So thank you.
Didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well said, Councilman Fusco. Thank you so much for that. Before we adjourn, Dr. Erickson?
Yeah, President Somerville, I just respond to that just real briefly.
Yes.
One of the things that I hope, just in response to your point, Councilman Fusco, is the continued integration of the university as a community partner in this. And because we do a lot of the education and training of folks that do end up as police officers in the university, in the Akron city, as well as people that work with Oriana House in various corrections capacities, as well as many of the social workers and mental health therapists who are at Portage Path Behavioral Health, Greenleaf, et cetera. I think one of the ways that we are trying, and one of the reasons that I'm so excited about being involved in this, is how can we modify down the road, create a certificate training program, however, that might actually reflect the information that comes from this process, so that we are doing a better job of preparing our students when they come out and become full-fledged employed citizens at the University of Akron, in the city of Akron, that they are much better prepared to engage in public safety in a way that reflects the complexity of the city and the complexity of the problems that are facing those involved in public safety, mental health, writ large. So we definitely see it as a real opportunity to do a better job on our part by really understanding the concerns that all of you have as representatives of the city. And that's what we're hoping the community engagement survey will allow us to do a better job with as well.
Thank you, Dr. Erickson. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I think that's what's so exciting about this whole process and this new partnership between Akron City Council, the University of Akron, and also our Akron Police Department. So I'm excited to see what comes from this. So again, if we don't have any other additional comments or questions from any council members, we will adjourn the meeting. Again, I want to thank Shelby. I hope that at some point, definitely you'll get an opportunity to meet our second intern. His name is Trayvon. And again, working group members expect to hear something from Dr. Erickson along with our interns as we continue this process. So thank you so much. And if there's nothing else coming before this committee, meeting adjourned.
I believe planning will begin in 1 minute. Okay, for all of the planning committee members, we'll take a 1 minute break.
Thank you.
Begin planning. Thanks.
Is anyone expecting someone with the first name of Miranda for the next meeting?
It could be Dylan Garatano trying to get in.
Next meeting.
Are you going to let him in?
That may have to do with item with the third hearing regarding the child care on Silvercrest.
Okay. I assume everyone is here and present. I'm trying to scroll through to make sure. I see Representative Kamer. I see Mr. Swirsky, I believe, is still on. Ms. Baylor. Okay, very good. At this point, I want to begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. If I get a thumbs up from Sarah Viviano.
Yes, we're ready.
We'll take that. Absolutely. Thank you all. Okay, roll call. Everyone present? Go.
Fusco?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Swirsky? Mr. Swirsky?
Aye.
Thank you. Baylor?
Aye.
And Samples?
Aye.
All committee members are present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of the last meeting.
So move.
Thank you. It sounds like a first and a second all at the same time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Very good. We have 3 items that are up for a public hearing today. The process is that what we will do is before every public hearing, we'll have a representative of our law department swear in anyone who wishes to speak to the committee in reference to the conditional use public hearing, okay? Either in favor or against. After the public hearing is closed, we will then ask the committee members for any questions. We'll then open up to all city council for questions. Before all that though, we will get a report from our planning department in reference to the conditional use request. Okay, then this evening at 7 o'clock, we're gonna repeat that whole process yet again. The only difference is gonna be is the committee will make a recommendation to all of council after that, either in favor, against, or to refer the item, okay? So with all that, I would now point everyone to the first item that is up for public hearing today, which is an ordinance authorizing a text change to the zoning code to allow retail uses in UPD-45 and UPD-46. I believe Mr. Antonucci is going to provide us with the report. After that, we'll ask if anyone would like to be sworn in. Okay, Mr. Antonucci.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, members of council. In an effort to promote and assist with present and future developments along the Roman Road corridor, the Office of Integrated Development and Planning staff is examining current zoning code regulations regarding permitted uses. The established zoning districts in the area include UPD 45 and UPD 46, both created in 2006 in response to the demise of the former Rolling Acres Mall and the decline of the surrounding area, and with the hope of repurposing the large structures. UPD 45 and UPD 46 presently allow commercial uses and limited business or office uses, but prohibits new retail uses. Last year, most of the former mall properties were transferred to an Amazon Realty holding company, and a new Amazon warehouse and distribution center will be operational very soon. The Office of Integrated Development and Planning recognizes that the missing component now is supporting retail services for the expected large labor force. Employees may wish to get a coffee on the way into work, do some shopping, or get lunch on their break, or get a haircut after work. Allowing new retail development in the Roman Road corridor will allow a vibrant ecosystem of labor and would be compatible with existing and future land uses. The proposed text changes will allow more flexibility for a mix of uses along the Roman Road corridor, and both Planning Commission and Office of Integrated Development Planning staff recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Antonucci, for that great report. At this time, I'll ask if there's anyone wishing to be sworn in before the committee before you would testify by a representative of our law department. I believe that's Attorney Advent that would swear in those who wish to testify. Is there anyone wishing to testify? If you could speak up at this time, please. On this particular item, okay? Okay, we do have someone who wishes to testify on this particular item. Shamari Grant, do you wish to testify on the Romig Road? Or is there another one? You're muted.
Yes, I'm mute, and I believe she's here for the 877
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Silvercrest.
I'm here for Silvercrest.
Okay, no problem. All right, we'll get you later. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in reference to the conditional use request that the text change to the zoning code in reference to the UPD 45 and 46? Anyone here wishing to speak? Anyone? Okay. Going once, going twice, no one. Very good. We'll open this up to the committee. Is there any questions from any committee members in reference to this? Any questions? Not seeing any. Any council members have any questions reference UPD 45 and 46? Anyone from city council? Good, good. All right, we'll now move on to the second night. Is there anyone? Okay, we'll now move on to the second item. I'm sorry, Mr. Swirsky, did you have something?
I just for the benefit of the public and everybody, if somebody could repeat what the benefits of this zoning district, what are the benefits associated with this?
I believe this would go to Mr. Antonucci. Mr. Antonucci?
Yeah, essentially what we're trying to do is right now along this corridor, so you have older retail uses that are there, and that has been essentially zoned out. Essentially, when the mall was, in decline, basically to look at what we could do the with the corridor and the large buildings that are there. So retail uses are no longer permitted there. Commercial uses are, office uses are, but the UPD specifically say no retail. So we feel that with Amazon coming in and all those jobs that'll be down there, it would be beneficial to add some retail, the ability to have some retail uses there by right without having to go through, conditional use process. So that's the point. It'll just add more vibrancy and business to the area.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Antonucci. Any further questions or comments at this time from anyone?
And you see that Councilwoman Amobian's hand is raised.
Oh, okay, very good. Ms. Amobian? Sorry, I didn't see it.
Thank you. Mr. Antonucci, so this is the Romick Road area. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
And this will allow, when you say retail, what are you talking about? Selling of clothing, tires, and anything like that?
It would essentially allow, what we consider retail uses, which would be things like stores, any kind of a store, restaurants, bars, coffee shops,
So
any
when
kind of
Romick-
fast food. Yeah, it would
so when the
allow all
mall-
retail uses.
So when the mall closed, everything stopped? Everything that was happening within that mall discontinued in that area? We rezoned it?
Well, essentially what we did was that any new uses that come in would have to be sort of more commercial oriented and office oriented. So any of the retail that was already there, like the plazas that are there, strip plazas, those would be considered legal non-conforming. You could still have a retail user come in there, but any new buildings and new uses and all that would have to go through conditional use approval. So it wouldn't be permitted by right.
That's what this is. And what is this doing?
This is allowing
saying that.
Yeah, this is allowing retail by right. So any retail, new retail building, as long as it meets all the development requirements, could be established in the area. Somebody could build a new store, for instance.
So they wouldn't have to get conditional zoning.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, very good. Thank you all. We'll now move on to the second item, which is up for a public hearing as well, which is ordinance to construct an automobile sales lot at 480 East Wilbeth Road. Mr. Antonucci, can you please provide a report for the committee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. East Properties Investments, LLC is requesting permission to establish a used car sales lot on the west portion of this property. Petitioner intends to utilize the area west of the building as a storage and sales area for a small number of vehicles sold primarily through the internet. The narrow area situated between the two buildings would be paved. A chain link fence is installed at the front of the property between the buildings, and a small identification sign has been affixed to the fence. Gated access to the area is provided at the rear of the property along the public alley. Office space will be provided in the structure on the east side of the property. Planning staff's of the opinion that the proposed development should not have a detrimental impact on the surrounding area. The proposed sales lot would appear much like a small parking lot, which is a permitted use within a retail district. The narrow area would only allow for a display of a maximum of 6 vehicles. The lot is sandwiched between 2 retail structures, neither of which has windows facing the sales area. These building areas placed at the right-of-way, which would largely screen the parking from view. Public parking is available in front of the structures and along Wilbeth Road. And both Planning Commission and OID planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you for that report, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, I would like to ask if there's anyone here, and I believe there may be, someone wishing to testify before the committee. Before you testify, we're going to ask a representative of our law department to swear you in. If there's anyone here wishing, please raise your hand, and I'll turn this over to Attorney Advent.
Thank you. Mr. East, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Anyone else wishing to speak in reference to this conditional use request at 480 East Wilbeth? Anyone? Okay, very good. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request to please step forward and provide for the committee your name and address, and we're happy to hear from you.
Okay, I'm Brian East. I'm the Brian East at 480 East Wilbeth Road here in Akron, 44301. And I'm opening the car lot, and it will basically just be for internet sales. More than likely, it'll be 2 to 4 cars. We will have no fix it. There will be everything will be taken out to have any repairs. And we have to have a sales lot in order to get a dealer's license. So that's the main reason why we have the lot. The lot before was used for drug activity, beer cans, beer bottles. So we just cleaned the lot up, and we'll do whatever it takes as far as to get things to pass through zoning. I mean, we have no problem with that. But it's going to be a small lot. It'll be like we're not even there. I'm also the owner of Sanders Home Realty. I have the building right next to the lot. I've been here since 2003. We take pride in our area here. We take care of the neighbors. I talk to all the neighbors. I don't think I'll have any problem with any of the neighbors. They're pretty good people, and they support. They've been approved. They've been happy that we put this cleaned up the lot so we don't have people going in there, trash build up. But other than that, I mean, I think it's going to be a positive thing. And if there's ever any issues, I mean, we will take care of it. I like to keep everything clean and neat around here with our other businesses. So, but that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. East. I'm going to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request at 480 East Wilbeth? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone wishing to speak against the conditional use request? Anyone wishing to speak against? Okay, hearing no one, we'll now close the public hearing portion of this conditional use request, and we'll open up to any committee members if there's any questions from any committee members at this time. Please let us know if you're interested, if you have a question or comment from any committee members. Mr. Kamer, I see your hand up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Mike Antonucci did a really good job basically laying out the plan from the petitioner. I just want to let the committee members and council members know that I have spoke to Brian a few times on the phone over this course of him moving forward with this conditional use. I also spoke with some of the other business owners that surround his building. Looks like everybody's in favor of this. Brian did mention he's been there since like 2003, and he does have a very decent, nice property that he takes care of. So I thank him for that. And then also what I would really want us as a city and Brian to really understand is I like the idea of only having 6 vehicles at this location. So it's not going to be one of those car lots where you're going to have like 20 or 30 vehicles on the lot. So I really appreciate that. And with that, I'm in favor of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kamer, for your comments. Any other council members or committee members have any comments at this time? Very good. I like you, Mr. Kamer, was a little bit concerned because oftentimes with used car lots or even new car lots, you'll see a lot of this, the street will be filled, especially now that they're stocking up on inventory. You know, they'll utilize the street to park cars to hold them for a time. It doesn't sound like that's going to occur. So that's good news. Thank you for that, Mr. Kamer. If there's no other questions or comments at this time, we're going to go ahead and move on to the third item, which is up for a public hearing as well. Short of any concerns or comments, not seeing any. Invite you back, Mr. East, for tonight. Okay, we have a public hearing at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to show up and provide testimony, we welcome that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. The third item up, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a type A child daycare home at 877 Silvercrest Avenue. Mr. Antonucci, I assume you're going to provide us with a report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, members of council. Shamari Grant is requesting permission to establish a child daycare home at this location. The daycare home would be located on the ground floor of this ranch-style home. The facility would provide services and activity for up to 12 children between the ages of 2 to 5 years of age. It would be operated between the hours of 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday and closed on weekends. The property contains a fully enclosed backyard play area. The proposed use should not be intrusive to the neighborhood, as the majority of the activities are conducted indoors, and there is a fully enclosed outdoor play area. Children would be dropped off and picked up in the property's driveway. Since children are dropped off and picked up at various times of the day, traffic congestion should not be an issue. Providing quality daycare services is beneficial to the neighborhood and the entire city. And as such, the Planning Commission, OID, and planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we will first ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak before the committee. I can't seem to get my screen to move over, but Attorney Edmond is here. So if there's someone who wishes to speak during this public hearing, I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Edmond.
If you could raise your right hand, Ms. Grant. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Attorney Edmond.
I think the chairman might be frozen.
Okay. I thought.
Sorry about that. He's coming back
okay.
in right now. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Here he is.
Thank you.
Oh, you're muted.
I apologize for that technical difficulty. It just went away. The battery is fine. I apologize for that. At this time, we'll go ahead and continue and open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request at 877 Silvercrest Avenue.
Me.
Please provide for us your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Shamari Grant, and I'm the owner of 877 Silvercrest in Akron, Ohio, 44314.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything you'd like to say to the committee in reference to this request?
I would just like to say that I'm excited about this new journey, and I think it will be very beneficial to the community. There are a lot of children around there, and I think that this daycare will be really beneficial. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this conditional use request at 877? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone against? Very good. We will now close the public hearing portion of this committee meeting and ask if there's any committee members have any comments. Any questions or comments from a committee member? Okay, hearing none. Any council representatives have any questions or comments at this time? I'm not seeing anyone. And oh, I see Council Representative Freeman. We'll recognize you. If you have questions or comments, Mr. Freeman.
Yeah, I just rise in favor. I've spoke with Ms. Grant on several occasions. Property looks great. And as Mr. Antonucci had said, this is needed in our communities right now. So I would strongly recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Freeman. Thank you. Any further questions or comments from anyone? Okay, not seeing anyone again, we will invite you back, Ms. Grant, for the 7 o'clock committee meeting. After the public hearing, the committee will make a recommendation to all of council, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for, I'd like to say coming this afternoon and testifying, but testifying, we'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I can see that Councilman Swirsky's hand is raised.
Oh, is it? Okay, I apologize, Mr. Swirsky, trying to keep up here.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, it's,
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to say thank you for providing a very, very valuable service to Akron residents, and appreciate your time and commitment and for meeting the needs of the people who live in the city of Akron. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Any further questions or comments from anyone? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Sarah, if you see someone, let me know. But with that, we'll move forward on the rest of the agenda, on the planning agenda. And there's an item, I'm going to request time on 4 through and including, I guess, 13, short of any concerns or comments from anyone. And request that we move forward with the eligibility report for the Mall Good Park Urban Renewal area. This is for the Mall Good Park Urban Renewal area. This is the, we've had this before committee in council on a couple of occasions. This is just primarily the eligibility report that's required for that new development, residential development, and I believe Ward 4. So any questions or comments at this time from anyone?
Just want to say the number, please.
That's number 14.
Okay.
Under the regular list of legislation. Item 14.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's none, if there isn't any comments, I'd like to entertain a motion for a favorable report with suspension of the rules at this time. From anyone on the committee?
So
I'll make that motion, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you both. I heard a motion in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, very good. We'll go forward with that particular item. And now I'm going to request that we go ahead and move into the new list of legislation, which is somewhere here. I'm going to ask that the clerk read in the new list or the new item. I believe there's one.
Sorry, we have a lot of pages today.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Ordinance extending the conditional use granted to Genesis Outdoor Advertising to install a digital billboard along I-77 at 530 Nome Avenue for a term of 1 year and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Viviano. I'm going to request that we advertise that for a public hearing. All those in favor?
This
Yes.
actually doesn't need a public hearing since it had
No?
a public hearing already. Council can extend their term for 1 year from what I'm understanding. Mr. Antonucci, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this, to refresh everyone's memory, I'm familiar with this, and especially some of our senior members may recall this particular one. This is on City of Akron owned land. It's a conditional use request, and that's what we would be doing, is extending that for I believe 2 more years, because typically conditional uses, they last about 2 years or so. This is on the Good Park, known as Good Park Golf Course. We went through the conditional use process a few years ago. That council approved the conditional use for a digital billboard, I believe it is, to Genesis Outdoor Advertising. From what I understand, and Mr. Antonucci, you could add if there's something needs to be added, just that they haven't been able to finalize everything, hence the reason for the request for additional time on the conditional use request. Mr. Antonucci, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just clarify. Yeah, this is just actually for 1 year. So it just
Oh,
extends
wow.
that conditional use that was granted 2 years ago. Conditional use is only good for 2 years. So this gives them an extra year to
Okay.
work with the state on their license.
And Mr. Antonucci, for the record, and so that especially for the newer members, whenever it was passed, the recommendation of the department and the planning commission was favorable, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and it
Yeah.
was unanimously passed by Akron City Council. I don't know if the ward council person is on or not, Mr. Neal, but if there's no other, is there any questions or comments at this time? I'd like to request that. Any questions or comments from anyone in reference to this particular?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, Mrs. Mobian, please.
Yeah. Now help me understand, what is the problem? Why is it taking so long, Mr. Antonucci?
Well, there's they're working a process through the state licensing, goes through ODOT, and I understand there's some paperwork and some hoops that they have to go through to get that done. And it's taken quite some time. So they're really just asking for 1 more year on their conditional use request.
Now, what are they planning to advertise? Do you know?
Well, this is a standard billboard. So it's a digital billboard similar to what you've seen along some of the other billboards that we have along the expressways.
So it'll be like Lamar that people can buy.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it'll
that
be
kind of
it'll
thing?
be anything up there. But actually, the city, because it's the city's lease term, allows the city to advertise on it. They're allowing a spot every minute, essentially an 8-second spot every minute if we want it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments at this time? Anyone else? I'm not seeing anyone here. Anyone? Is there a recommendation? I would I guess ask for a favorable with suspension of the rules recommendation, recognizing that council reviewed this in detail before. If that's okay with the committee.
I'll make that recommendation for suspension of the rules, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kamer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I hear a second. All those in favor of a favorable recommendation with suspension of the rules signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Okay, great. The ayes have it. Okay, at this time then, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn the meeting and move on to the next.
So move.
All right, thank you all.
Second.
Thanks, everyone. The planning committee meeting is finally over. Thanks, everyone.
Our next committee will begin at 2 o'clock, and that would be the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Samples, Kamer, Swirsky, Lombardo, and McKittrick. So we'll end our live stream and come back at 2 o'clock. Thank you.